And here we are. We are here doing something called Buffy Revisited. And I believe this will actually be, if not the first, the second episode out in 2024 for Genuine Chit-Chat. I think I'm also going to put it on the feed of Comics in Motion because this entire episode only happened because of the two individuals that have joined myself and Megan. So Buffy Revisited, it's about Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And we actually, myself and Megan watched it because of Season's Greetings. Now, I'd seen it before when I was 11 or something, and I'd seen most episodes, or at least the episodes that moved the story around the most. Megan had never seen it. So two whimper-snappers on the Comics in Motion network, they...
Did you say whimper-snapper?
Whippersnappers, yeah.
Whippersnapper.
The exact opposite. But they decided to create a show called Season's Greetings, which is fantastic. And with Season's Greetings, they went for every season of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And because of that, I was like, I actually really like Buffy. And I listened to the first one. I was like, this is a good show. I remember this being good. And Megan was like, never seen it before. And that started our journey. And so we planned to do this big ol' revisited rewatch. We've all been busy and had things going on. And it's like, we had a bit of free time. We all synced up the schedules. I'm doing terribly tonight. Even had a coffee. I'm still drinking and I'm still not awake enough. But we all synced up the schedules and now we're talking about all of the Buffy stuff. We've got a few questions from Jenna Maid and from Rhea Carrogan. Obviously Rhea of Femme Collective and Jenna from episode 201 of Genuine Chit-Chat. So lots of fun stuff. And we're going to be focusing on Megan mainly.
Yay.
Megan, who loves the focus being on her.
She loves that. In fact, what people can't see, I don't know if you're putting this up on YouTube. For those who aren't watching on YouTube, you're missing the big pointy arrows that she's got that are like, and she's under the thing that says, just Megan, just Jack on Will and Grace. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, let's introduce the two individuals who are with us, Megan. I mean, people know Megan, and we're going to focus on her so she can do lots of talking for once. But Tony, hello, good sir. How are you doing? And what is, I know this is kind of treading old ground with Season's Greetings, but what was your first sort of memory and experience with Buffy? And then we'll move on to Jack.
Yeah, I saw the movie in the theater. It was me.
I've never seen it.
Oh, well.
I've heard it's not...
You should rectify that.
Also covered on Comics in Motion.
We did the Hostile Takeover.
Because I hadn't seen it. I was like, I didn't want to watch it in case one day I was inclined to, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I would recommend it. But I saw the movie in the theater and loved it and thought, wow, this is a thing that exists. I can't believe this exists. Who allowed this to happen? And then other people were like, I can't believe that exists. What's that?
Was it more comedic? Like a funnier...
I mean, yeah,
it's broader.
Yeah, it's definitely... I mean, Paul Rubens is in it, so he's playing for laughs. He was Pee Wee Herman, and David Arquette is doing all the. He's really funny in that. So those two, but like it depends on which character. But yeah, it's more comedy. Kirsty plays plays her Buffy as more of a Valley girl, which because the show kind of picks up from there. So she starts off that way. Sutherland. I mean, I enjoyed the movie. So I saw the movie and I just loved it and had the movie poster. I mean, I loved it. And then when the show came out on this upstart little nobody network, the WB network, I was like, oh, I'll watch whatever that is. I didn't know what it was. And so I actually watched the pilot when it came out and I was hooked. And then I actually recorded them. I wouldn't miss it. Like back then when you still had answering machines, I actually had an answering machine that would say, like, if you called in, it's this time, I'm watching Buffy. Like it was on my answering machine message. And then, it kept going and switched networks and I got married and had kids. So I didn't continue on in real time. I had to catch up post divorce when I had, then I had more time again. But that was my Buffy experience. So Buffy fan from the beginning. It is still my all-time favorite show.
Amazing. And then Jack, your origin story.
Not wildly dissimilar, to be fair. Again, big fan of the film, but from VHS rentals when Rhea and I grew up. For those that don't know, Rhea, that's mentioned earlier, is my sister, who's got a question for us later. So when we grew up, we had a video shop down the end of the road. We were lucky to have it. We could just pot it down with our pocket money. I couldn't tell you how much money was spent renting that movie, but it was, a considerable amount. Would have been just much cheaper just to have bought the video and just owned it. But watched that a lot. And then we got the series a year after the States, I think. So the whole of series 1 had been on, because I know in America it was like a mid-season filler, wasn't it? It wasn't a full season show at that point. So I think we got it about a year later. And I was there again from day one. It was in that golden age. Tony and I have spoken about this on BBC Two when I was growing up, where you had all the best shows on between 6 and 7:30. So like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was on at that time, Quantum Leap, Buffy, Star Trek: The Next Generation, Ren and Stimpy, Sliders, the list goes on and on and on. It was like their slot on BBC Two where they got all these American imports mostly. Heartbreak High was an Australian one, which was like a grown-up, like a teenager's version of Home and Away and Neighbours. I guess it was like the Australian version of Hollyoaks, but good. Gritty and good. So yeah, it was like a golden age of time on TV. So I was watching it then, and much like Tony, I was watching it in real time. But for me, I then went to uni, which I think would coincide roughly with Buffy going, to be fair. It's almost like it was meant to be. Why I'm not sat here with Buffy next to me, I'm not sure. But so I went away a little bit and I had to catch up, but only about a year behind, I think. So my first year at uni, for those that have been through that process of life, you get involved in other things than watching TV generally in that first year, going
Studying
out,
a lot.
socializing and reading books a lot. Yeah, right. So I missed maybe like season 4 or something, and then caught up, ready in time for season 5. So yeah, I was watching it live, living through the moments as they happen, living through the end of season 5 and the rebirth in season 6. And yeah, it was great. And same as Tony, it's never gone away. I think we both agree it's not the best show ever made, but for what it means to me in the times that I was watching it and how it's continued to evolve in my thoughts and in my journey, it's still my favourite show of all time.
Amazing. And Megan.
Hello.
So you and I watched it when we were in the flat. So it's about 2 years ago. It was around the time.
I mean, we moved into this house about a year and a half ago.
Yeah. And so before you and I actually started watching Buffy, like, what did you didn't know much about it, did you? So there's going to be spoilers for all 7 seasons of Buffy, friends. But what little breadcrumbs did you know before watching it, and what spoilers did you get sort of before we watched it?
I literally didn't know anything. I'd seen it on TV in the background. I think no one in my house watched Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and I think it was always on too late for me to watch it. I was too young.
Is there an Italian dub of Buffy? That's the big question.
Well, you were
absolutely
back by
no idea.
99,
Would that have been the most amazing thing to have, like, Italian voice actors doing Buffy?
But
Megan.
It also moved. So when it shifted from BBC Two, I think around season 3, maybe season 4, it shifted onto Sky. So you're right, it did shift later because it was Buffy at 8 and then Angel at 9, because Angel was the grown-up show. So they were on back to back.
Was The Simpsons on at that point? Yeah, so I would have been able to watch The Simpsons, and then my mum wouldn't let me watch Buffy.
Because Buffy started 97, but we got it a year late, so it started airing over here probably 98, 99.
So it started, I moved away from Italy in 1998. So, okay. And Italy don't tend to, well, at least at that point, is the same. It would have had a delay on getting Buffy, and I reckon the delay would have been even longer to get it to Italy than to get it into the UK. I don't know. I'll have to look that one up at some point, and I'll let you know. But yeah, I didn't know anything about it. I'd seen it briefly. I'd seen her like doing flips in the air, so I knew that she jumped. But then it was also on at the same time. There was also, is it Xena the Warrior Princess? So I don't know if I'd seen her and then got the two mixed up because I didn't watch them. But otherwise, I knew nothing about. Obviously, she's a vampire slayer. Like, she's going to kill vampires.
Spoilers.
But, like,
spoilers right there in the title. Yeah.
Otherwise, I didn't know anything.
No, and then as we went through it, I managed to close the world off from you of spoiling Buffy. Every time I entered a room, I was like, if anyone here seen Buffy the Vampire Slayer, no references.
The only 2 things that got spoiled are because I was on a BuzzFeed article and it wasn't specifically about Buffy. It was a BuzzFeed article about like shocking episodes in TV. And Buffy just happened to come up and I saw it. So I knew that Joyce... I knew Joyce died.
Ugh, that's tough.
But I didn't know how. I didn't know to what extent. I automatically assumed that it was going to be some sort of like mystical death, like she got killed by a demon or something. And I knew that Buffy and Spike kissed. However, there was one episode where everyone goes crazy and they end up doing random stuff, and Buffy and Spike kiss in that episode before their whole thing. So I saw that and I was like, oh, well, that was in the episode that we just watched. So that spoiler's eliminated. So I had a spoiler that I didn't actually realize was a spoiler because obviously Spike and Buffy go further down the line, and I knew about Joyce. That's it. Nothing else got ruined.
But the Joyce thing was still a big shock to you.
Oh man, yeah, the Joyce thing was still like, holy crap, like I wasn't expecting it to happen in that way. But I did know it was coming, but I didn't know when.
And that is still arguably in the top 2 shows of all time, Buffy shows of all time, Hush and The Body.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, for us, are the two. I mean, I think we kind of like Hush is just so almost perfect, but like The Body is like 1A, is the best show.
I think The Body's probably even better, but you can't watch The Body a lot. It's not like, oh, I've got 40 minutes. I'm going to put The Body on. That'll really cheer me up.
Yeah, Hush kills you for a long time.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas Hush is like exciting and enjoyable and funny and
I think the best double bill, if you just have like an hour and a half and you want to watch a bit of Buffy, is do Hush and Once More Feeling. It's like they marry together because they're so opposite, but the meaning they have for not only the larger story, but how they show certain characters and how clever they are. It's just brilliant. I mean, we've got some questions we'll delve into, and I'm sure you both have questions for Megan as well. But one of the questions was about favourite moments and favourite episodes, and Megan did actually cited Hush as one of your top ones.
So my thing is that I'm not, because there's so many episodes, and we watch them in such quite a fairly quick succession, some of the series, they all kind of merge into one for me. So I find it really difficult to differentiate specific episodes, and I also find it hard to actually remember the individual episodes and what actually, like I know the vague, like, what would you call, like the synopsis of the series, so to speak,
and the arcs within
them, but I can remember, like, I really, like, for example, with the Hush episode, I remember really enjoying it, and I remember really, really liking it, but I can't specifically tell you the ins and outs of the episode, if that makes sense. Like, I know that there's people that don't talk. Huh?
So you lost your voice. Very nice.
Good. Very good.
Yeah, I did enjoy Hush from what I remember.
Yeah.
I remember finding it creepy.
Yeah, that's Doug Jones, who's the main gentleman, who is he's the monster in Shape of Water. And he was Abe Sapien in the Hellboy movies. Yeah. I'm trying to think of, so like he's that kind of
Megan's
guy.
not seen either of those to Catholic.
Oh, you've not?
She's seen all. I've seen them all, but she's seen almost no Guillermo del Toro apart from Devil's Backbone and The Orphanage.
Seen that.
The Orphanage.
I've seen The Orphanage.
And Pan's Labyrinth.
Pan's Labyrinth.
No,
I love that film.
Yeah, so he's the fawn in Pan's Labyrinth. Anytime you need somebody to move in like a ethereal monster, like something that doesn't look human way, get Doug Jones on the phone. Absolutely, yeah.
He's like your favorite mime, Anthony Daniels. He was a mime. He's a classically trained. Like he can do. There's something about that skill set that is fucking creepy. And so and he and Del Toro are buddies. But he played the gentleman, and it was. I mean, there's other gentlemen too, but like the one who does all the the one that
the horrible, creepy fucking smile.
Yeah. He's amazing, really. Doug Jones is exceptional in that episode. Yeah. No, Hush was groundbreaking. Nothing had really done for a show. And so this is a question, since you do remember it sticking out to you, what makes it to me so interesting is right literally at the midway point of your entire, run of your whole series, a show that is built on dialogue. It's super witty, and you shut everybody up for 30 of the 44 minutes. So was that like, what did you make of that? Was like, is that what, I mean, in addition to just being awesome, but how did you recognize that as you're watching it, Megan? You're like, oh, it's still a good show, even when they're not talking. It turns out that it's not, because I think it's got a rap for being like, well, it's just dialogue that doesn't mean anything, and like all the Buffyisms. And so they were like, hold my beer, watch what happens if they don't talk. It's still fucking amazing.
Yeah, I think it's the juxtaposition of it, isn't it? Like you're so used to, like, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, kind of in the same vein, with the amount of dialogue there is, reminds me a bit of the Gilmore Girls, because it's like just constant talking. And as much as I love the Gilmore Girls, like, it is just constant speaking. So yeah, I think I don't know. For me, like, I feel things more than I remember them. Like, the way that I felt watching Hush is the same feeling that I got specifically when I watched what's that bloody Doctor Who episode called?
Weeping Angels.
The Blink from the Weeping Angels episodes, if you've seen that. If you haven't,
statues, right?
Yeah, it's a really good Doctor Who episode. But like, I feel it. Yeah, it's. I don't. I'm just rambling.
It's like mannequin stuff. You've played games before where like lights go off and lights come on. The mannequins are closer to you. You don't like that.
I don't like creepy silent things.
They've got like a statue thing about them, haven't they? Because like the gentlemen float and they move very slowly.
I don't like creepy, weird, silent things. They freak me out.
That's why she's with me. I'm the opposite of a silent thing. So I think as much noise around me as possible.
You're a walking, talking Buffy and Gilmore girl. Yeah, you're right.
We get it now. We get what it's. Now we understand.
She has to get a little bit of weird to have me fending off the major weird. That's how our relationship works.
Yeah, it's a clever episode. I like episodes that are clever but without being too clever. Do you know?
Yeah, it's smart, not clever.
Yeah.
It was definitely written as like a. Sorry, Mike. It was written as a bit like a fuck you, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
I think. Maybe I don't know if we're saying his name, but the man who created Buffy, he was sick and tired of people calling him out. And all you do, as Tony said, is write these funny lines and write this. He was like, okay, well, how about we do this then? And then it's now heralded, and everybody loved it at the time, and it's the best episode ever. And so it was a kind of a statement of intent of like, we can do whatever we want with this show. As you said, Mike, once more with Theme was a couple of years later, like, I can do this, we can do this as a show, and well, we have a talented enough pool of performers and writers and directors, and that really we can do whatever we want, and we'll make it the best episode. We'll make it the best TV that you'll see.
And it's true. Once more with Feeling, that was after they switched networks. That was the first script written, and they knew which episode number it would be too. It wasn't like it was the first script written, like, and then they were like, they knew which episode it would be. They brought that to UPN. We're like, we're doing this, so get prepared, because it's like they were already an 8-day shoot, and most TV shows are supposed to be a 4 or 5 day shoot for a TV show, and they were already an 8-day shoot just because of all the. So they're like, also, now, per episode, and they're like, now we're also going to do a musical, so that's going to take even longer. So they needed to prepare. So it was one of those. It was like, well, we're moving to a new network. People are like, this is stupid. Just the show should have ended. Whatever. Again, we're going to blow everybody's mind. And again, my second favorite episode of all time is in season 6. It isn't, I mean, I love Once More with Feeling. I love it. But I like Tabula Rosa, the one where they all, like, to me, that is like them acting their asses off. Again, all these
when
actors,
they all lose their memory, is that right?
Yeah.
And Spike opens his thing and he's like, I'm British because of this thing. And he thinks
I like that one. Yeah.
He's Giles' son.
His name is Randy Giles. Yeah. Which is brilliant. I know. I love that. Randy Giles. It's like, that is such a great, that to me, like that was another fuck you to like people, because only Sarah had a lot of, and Anthony Stewart had a lot of acting chops before. Mm-hmm. And so again, there's all these really good actors. And again, they're getting shit on for like being in this genre show. So when you do a show like Tabula Rosa, you're like, oh, guess what? We're all going to play somebody totally different. And throughout the time, Sarah played a bunch of different versions of Buffy, right? Like, like she played, and like that's like my favorite episode, Halloween. She plays somebody else, right? She plays the Buffy. Yeah, she plays the Buffy that you meet in the original movie for the first half of the movie. Yeah, the damsel in distress. So like Sarah Michelle Gellar got more of a chance to act than everybody else did. They were stuck in those characters. So Tabula Rosa was like another chance to be like, okay, we're just going to turn this on. Everybody has a good time. And so again, it was just, what I love about it is just that ability to push genre, like to live in a genre, but then also break it, because it's easy to get pigeonholed.
Yeah, and I think all the most of the best shows that exist that are considered high art in a lot of ways are ones that have a few episodes in there that really go against the grain. And I know that Megan, you often appreciate those kind of episodes because one of the other ones was The Wish, which obviously introduces Anya, which you really liked, but also it was Cordelia's wish. I think it was I wish Buffy never came to the school.
Sunnydale, yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, though there's an episode of Doctor Who, again, this is a lot of Doctor Who talk, funnily
Considering
enough.
Mike and I have never watched Doctor Who together.
It also makes sense, right? This 100% makes sense. It's an influence on Buffy, no doubt.
Oh, yeah. And almost vice versa as well, I think, because obviously there was the gap of Doctor Who existing. So, but it's like with Doctor Who, there's an episode with the Catherine Tate series, which is my favourite series and my favourite companion, with David Tennant, and it's called Turn Left. And the whole episode is just Catherine Tate has one option, or Donna Noble has one option, turn left or turn right. And in the canon, she turns left. And it was what if she turned right in this situation? And then there's loads of like butterfly effect kind of things of why she never met the Doctor. And then it goes from there onwards. But it's years before she would have met. And you see her see world events occur that the Doctor prevents happening, starting to happen. And basically the world ending because of all these events. And she has no idea why. And that gravity of making an episode like that is so huge, and the cleverness of it all. Buffy and certain other shows have episodes kind of like that, but often with the characters. And one of the appeals of the show is when people who haven't seen Buffy before, friends of ours have said, oh, would you recommend it? It's like, it's a good show. It's worth a watch. The highs are so amazing, but you have to sift through so many episodes. And I feel like if every Buffy series was, and I think you guys have said this on Season's Greetings, was like 15-ish, 16 episodes, it would probably be heralded as one of the best shows ever made ever, without real debate. But there's so many weird little ones in between. The ones that really work get missed a bit. And I think the episodes that really work is when they change around dynamics, when they change characters, when they do those kind of things. Because with a lot of the best episodes, Doppelgangland is one of my favourites. Mm-hmm. When you get these characters that you've known for so long and they get changed, ironically, that's what I enjoy the most. And I think Spike in Tabula Rosa is probably one of my favourite elements of that.
Well, Spike's a fascinating character for that, isn't he? And, you know, we had Tonya on talking Buffy with us and talking Angel with us, and she's such a purist. I think she's in such an interesting character. When you hear her talk about, like, you know, Spike or Angel or like Loki, these are characters where she wants them to stay, and I understand this isn't a criticism. She wants them to stay like as that kind of villainous Machiavellian, whereas for me, the turn of Spike is when he becomes the better character. Don't get me wrong, he's fantastic in season 2, but the turn, what we start to see in season 4, through like the episode you mentioned, Megan, I think it's called Something Blue, when they all like that's the episode when like Buffy and Spike are kissing. It's like kind of like the earlier Tabula Rasa, I suppose. It's another episode that was similar in a
something at the magic box, something.
Yeah, it goes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the Buffy and Spike, oh, we're engaged. Yeah, this kind of stuff. Yeah. Yeah. And then that's when it starts to kick in that he's got feelings for her. So the turn of Spike, he becomes a character. I think it's almost like a Scrooge. He goes from a caricature to a character, and I think that's what Buffy did so well all the way through. They weren't all caricatures, but they were all characters who changed and developed and evolved, and I think that's the real catch for it. They are real, in inverted commas, people who don't stay the same all the way through. Not a single person in that show stays the same. They all evolve and change, not always for the better, sometimes for the worst, and sometimes then they come back. And Tony, you mentioned Lost. There's a reason why they're my 2 favorite shows of all time, because they're shows based on character.
Yeah, it's true. And it's funny too, like, and also part of it, like, if, you know, we're not saying the name of he who shall not be named, but you also have to think about the supporting, like when Drew Goddard comes in, when Drew Goddard shows up on Lost, there's a hard turn. And when I see his name show up for the first time, I said to Leah, I was like, oh, Drew Goddard's on this show. I didn't know. It's like, well, that's going to get wild. You know, like, it's good. You like, because I know what he can bring. And there's just, and then Brian K. Vaughan shows up on Lost too. Crazy. So it's like, there's, you can't discount, it's the performances, of course, but you also can't discount these people these writers and producers that they bring in who have really good ideas. And so I think that's fun. I would ask you, Megan, as we're talking about the characters, was there any of the character changes that you didn't like? Like, did you like early Mousy Willow more than, like, you know, badass Willow at the end? Did you like, when you first met Tara, do you like her better? Like, the character arcs, the growth of the characters, was there any that you liked, and was there any that you liked that didn't work for you? You thought the growth was, was a bad choice to change the character in that way?
I can't really think of any of them that I thought were bad.
There's the Xander choice. He changes as a character.
Xander becomes less insufferable, so that's fine by me.
But the standing up Anya though.
Yeah.
So it's like,
I mean, I'm not a fan of him leaving Anya at the altar, because I really like Anya.
Did you like Anya's change? Because obviously she goes from demon to not to then back to it a bit towards the end.
Yeah, I found when she flitted back to being a demon, I thought that was a little bit annoying, because it just felt like it was backtracking on loads of progress that she'd made as a character. But yeah, so I liked her character development. I liked Spike's character development, bar like
the moment
a certain episode.
That's horrendous.
But
which he hates, the actor himself.
He had to go
through, he's never watched
through
that
therapy.
episode.
He had to go through therapy for that, because you think acting as sexual assault out over and over and over and over and over again, and you know the acting in that scene is phenomenal, and it's just horrendous to watch, and it goes on for so long on film. It goes on when you're watching it. It goes on for so long. So for him, it's. Ugh.
Yeah, I can't really think of any characters.
What about Willow? Like her from, as Tony said, from like a more side character to, she's a bit of a witch, to her, she's like the most powerful being there is, to like Dark Willow.
I think it does get a little bit frustrating after she becomes Dark Willow. I think her character becomes a little bit annoying, because it's kind of like, oh, can I use magic or can't I use magic? And then there's no real like actual lines as to whether or not she can use magic and how much magic is too much magic. I feel like it's a bit of a pithy storyline for her. I think it just annoyed me a smidge. But otherwise, I prefer her as being more like taking ownership for her own person and not just being pushed to the sides all the time. Because obviously the first like part of Buffy is her about like being in love with Xander. And then she actually like finally gets like something to her. Tara was just... her character arc was really nice. I was just angry that they killed her.
As is everyone, I think.
So angry.
And
as
we know
they
the
intended,
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll say, you know, with the creator of this show, I'll say his name, it's Joss Whedon. He's a piece of shit. And look up all the horrible things he said to people. And unfortunately, he can help make with other people some great shows, unfortunately. But, you know, we don't want to talk about him very much, but he is the reason that Tara gets killed in such a horrible way. I'm not going to delve into it here, but look it up. The conversations they had is horrendous. So, yeah.
I'm trying to think of any other character that...
Giles, because he goes up
Angel, I've just always thought is meh. I never liked him.
Angel.
Not fussed by him. No. Don't see the point.
Oh, but your favourite character?
Even when he like pops back, he's just like, oh, I'm back. I sensed something was wrong. And then he just fucks off again, and I'm like, okay.
He's busy.
What's even the point of you? Why
investigating things?
He's like, oh, I'm here in the final episode to solely just be the bringer of this amulet. Okay, bye.
Well, but they need the amulet so Spike can show up in Angel season 5 and save that series.
Yeah, right. But this annoyed me. Okay, so I do know that Spike doesn't die because Mike told me at the end. So I'm there like.
Well, I waited for it to hit you first. Yeah, the second he dies, then go, didn't happen. I did wait a little bit.
He's not actually dead.
Well, I mean, he's already dead. To be fair, he's sort of re-dead. Yeah.
Re-dead.
No, I hear you.
It's true.
It's a problem. It's a criticism you can throw at a lot of genre shows, isn't it? That sense of like they're dead. Oh no, they're back again. You know, comics. They're dead. No, they're back again.
Well, I mean, they literally did it with Buffy.
Yeah, twice.
Yeah.
However, I think it sounds like you're never going to go on and watch Angel.
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not fussed by Angel. I find him so bland. I find him less bland than Finn.
Yeah.
Oh,
Finn is super bland, but Angel, Riley, I'm also kind of just. Oh yeah, right. What's his name?
Yeah, Riley Finn. You're right.
Riley Finn. Okay. Yeah. But yeah, Mike called him Finn earlier.
Yeah.
Well, that is his name.
Yeah.
He gets referred to by the soldiers as Finn, I think, doesn't he?
Yeah.
But everyone else as Riley. It doesn't matter. He's boring as hell anyway. But...
Well, that's the point, isn't it? You can't really remember because he's just so bland and beige.
I forgot he existed. I for a while, because we were talking. I did a little list of just little notes of like, what is the difference between each season? Because I can only loosely remember. So I made some notes. It was season 1 intro and the Master, season 2 Spike, season 3 Mayor, Faith and Prom, season 4 College, Oz, Adam and Finn. I couldn't remember his name. I was just looking for the episodes. I was like, what is? Oh, it's Riley Finn. And then there's season 5 Glory and also Joyce's Death. And then season 6 Resurrection, Dark Willow and Tara. And then season 7 Uber Vamps, Hellmouth and Finale.
I like that you've written Joyce's Death, but you haven't written the apostrophe S. You've just written the apostrophe.
Yeah, Joyce Death.
Joyce Death.
And not to be a prick, but it's season 6, but you know.
There we go.
No, it's season 5, isn't it? No, you're right. I'm the prick. It is right.
I went on IMDb.
It's the last thing that's the final things as she goes through the end of the episode in season 5.
Well, it's because season 5 is such a perfect wrap-up, isn't it? And it's just like everything's kind of tied together. But I had to look almost all this up on IMDb, scroll for the episodes, because like Megan I saw it once when I was 10, not all of it.
Is that series the one where Buffy jumps into that portal thing?
Yeah, right.
To save everybody, and she dies. Yeah,
and then the series ends, and then they decide, actually, let's not have the series end.
Well, it was another fuck you because the WB didn't want to keep it because it was an expensive show, and the way that it works in TV, the longer the series goes, the more you have to pay people. But also, for the most part, the longer the series goes, the less viewers they get. They get hit peak saturation, and then it starts to go down. And so you have to make those decisions. And the WB, you just didn't want to have to do it. And the UPN, which, and the two networks ultimately merge and become the CW, which is funny. But the UPN network was like, we'll do it. We'll take it. And so it was written with the intention that would be the end of the whole thing. It would end at season 5. But the fact that there was an opportunity to tell more stories, season 6 does take a while to get its legs under it. There's the baddies aren't as bad. I mean, that's the problem. The dorks aren't great baddies.
Kids.
Yeah,
what's that?
It's just the 3 kids.
Yeah. They would work in an arc of a few episodes while something else is happening.
One of them is in the Gilmore Girls.
yeah, Danny Strong. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he's a writer. Danny Strong goes on to have a really great writing career. He's an Emmy-winning, Tony-winning writer. He wrote the Hunger Games adaptations, and he did The Butler. He writes a lot of Lee Daniels stuff. He's an amazing writer, and I honestly think it's from his time hanging around the Gilmore Girls and Buffy staff, sitting around Jonathan. You're just here all day, and then you get to come on for 2 minutes and just got to sit over here, same on Gilmore Girls. So I actually think that's probably how he went on to do that. He just has to
be yelled at by Paris.
Right. That is definitely his whole thing there. Jack, sorry.
I was just going to say, just around, we were talking about Spike, weren't we? Just to round that off, I think there is a good payoff to talk, to round up this idea again of characters dying, coming back. I think the way they deal with the Spike one is probably the best of anyone.
In Angel, you say? Yeah,
it's the way they deal with any character within the universe dying and coming back. I think they deal with it really interestingly in the Angel season 5 TV show when he goes across there. I mean, Tony is absolutely right. He was a life jacket for that show because it was in real big trouble by the end of season 4. They got off a cliff with the writing and nobody liked it, and nobody that was watching it liked it anymore. So they were like, but everybody loves James Masters, so let's get him an Angel. So it was cynical, but the way they dealt with it, I think, was really, really good, and added to the legacy of where the show continued on into the comics. And I think it's a really interesting one. I don't know, I'm not sure whether you'd ever go down that road, Megan, but it'd be interesting to see if you ever, even if you read about the arcs, what you think about whether it should have stopped at 5. Because, a Slayer's not supposed to live very long. They're supposed to have short lifespans. Or, for what they've gone, because it's all canon, which you all appreciate, Mike, all the Buffy comics are canon, what they decide to do with that character and the legacy of where it goes would be really interesting to get your take on that as well.
I have seen the Buffy comic books. We've seen them a few times.
Because I've got a few of them for Free Comic Book Day. And there's a couple of almost otherworld ones where there's ones where I think Willow, is this spoilers?
No.
People reading the comics, I don't know.
There's two different. So the Dark Horse one are canon, and then they sold over to Boom Studios, which is the new ones, which is a reset, Buffy with cell phones. So that first issue of the Boom one is Buffy with a cell phone and a stake. So it's re-racking, and then in those comics, they mention they prove that the Dark Horse comics are also still canon. So everything that happens there. I mean, I'm assuming if you're listening to the Buffy show and you've not read the comic books, you can say 3, 2, 1 spoilers and then say it, and then
Yeah, it was just that I think Willow becomes the Slayer in one of the kind of the stories, isn't it? And there's isn't there a story where Buffy then isn't the Slayer and she gives up her powers or something for some magic-y thing, and it twists the dynamic quite a lot. And I also know that there's other stuff that happens not in those comics, but Xander gets with Dawn, and there's all this weird stuff that goes on, because I haven't delved into the comics, but I was I played, I think it's Buffy Chaos Bleeds, I think was the game that came after it. There's other media as well that comes after Buffy as well. Why is there not a new Buffy game? A video game that's Buffy the Vampire Slayer, its own story, and it's an RPG-esque kind of game. How cool would that be with the style of games at the moment? I just think Chaos Bleeds
a Witcher Buffy.
Yeah. That would be so cool.
Because somebody would get a shit ton of money for that.
Yeah, it would be incredible.
That's my reason. No, that's my
a certain person would.
A certain person would have to be paid off.
Because he created it, does he then own all, like even the comics that are made, he's still...
Well, yeah, unless he's sold.
Well, I didn't know if he.
He's not George Lucas it.
No, he still owns it. Yeah, so like the Boom stuff, the Boom Buffy and Angel comics that are still happening, he doesn't write or have anything to do with, but it's his name and it's his license. So every time
like Rowling and Harry Potter or the Wizarding World is that kind of thing.
Yep.
Okay, I see.
Yep. Yeah. So I think that's probably part of it because it's not like. I mean, those comics are still running and they're okay. They go up and down. Same with the Firefly ones in the Boom universe. I know Jack doesn't like them.
I dropped out.
Yeah. But they're not. They're uneven. But they, it's still he's still getting paid for the licensing. So whatever Boom Studio paid. Yeah, they didn't. It's not like with the Nevers where they could just wrestle it away from him.
Right. Yeah.
Because they were co-producers. Yeah.
That is a shame. I mean, I'm not trying to make a political standing because he is a piece of shit, but I'm like, I would be fine with the game. My kind of, it's not the bad, it's not the right moral way of looking at things, but it's like with the new Harry Potter Hogwarts Legacy game. I'm like, these two creators, regardless of how much I disagree with them, they are so unfathomably rich. There's nothing anyone can really do now apart from literally putting them in prison that can possibly, if you took all their income away tomorrow, they're still going to be richer than like anyone listening to this podcast for the rest of their lives. So I'm like, I don't want to give them money, but I want to have fun, nice, cool things that can make me escape the existential dread of the world. So I'm kind of like,
it's
a hard one. Anyone could spend their money, their dollar, however people want. If you want to support or not support, whatever. I'm not judging or anything in any way. But for me, I'm just selfishly. Maybe it's because I've got a real horrible pit deep in my stomach. There's something bad's going to happen to Star Wars. I'm like. Just protect the IP. I'll separate it from the creator as much as I can.
Well, but I think at the beginning of the first 2 episodes of Season's Greetings, Jack read the letter from Sarah herself.
Yeah.
And once, and we did that early on because we had on Jack's birthday, which I didn't know was his birthday, I sent him a message and we're like, hey, I'm going to do this show. I'm going to do a show. I was just going to be me where I was like rewatching Buffy. And then it was like, I knew how much you liked it. So I just sent him a message like, you want to do this with me? And he was like, sure. And so I didn't know that was his birthday, but that was on his birthday. And so then so we start working on it. We're ready to go. We're working on stuff. And then all of the news breaks. And we were like, should we continue on with it? But ultimately, it's exactly what you said. I do think it's important because again, the show wouldn't have happened. Like, yes, he made the movie. And yes, he was brought in to make the show. But Marty was the one who came to him and said, I want to make a Buffy the Vampire Slayer show. And he was like, really? And she said, yeah, I've got a really good idea. I know how to do it. So he owns the characters because he wrote the characters, but he wasn't even the executive producer of that first season. He was a producer. And then it was only later that he gets that, you know what I mean? Because other people, smart women said, we could do something cool here. Let's go do it. So that was ultimately our decision too, right, Jack? Was that like, we want to, and because Sarah said so, and Charisma said so, and Michelle said so, they're like, yeah, you shouldn't quit watching this because, of course, they get paid. Every time that reruns, every time somebody buys another episode or the stream happens, they're also, as actors, getting paid, right? I mean, Charisma Carpenter hasn't done a ton. Her work in The Expendables notwithstanding.
Cordelia.
She hasn't done a ton, so that's like an income stream for her and her family forever. And so if we just pull it, she was the victim there.
And Joss is still going to get money for Avengers and Nevers and every single other property that he's... And it's scary when you look back. And you see a film and you go, oh, co-written by Joss Whedon. You're like, oh.
Yeah, Toy Story.
Yeah, Toy Story.
He's also directed an episode of The Office.
Yeah. Lots of...
Ironically, the one with the bat.
But getting off of Whedon, let's get on to the best W, Willow. We named our dog Willow. Not after Warwick Davis' character, but actually because we hadn't seen the film Willow.
A lot of people think that that's the case because our tortoise is named Wicket, which is after Wicket, which is a Warwick Davis character. So we've unintentionally named.
So obviously, when you have kids, you have to name it Flitwick just to throw everybody off.
We did say if we got another animal,
if we got another pet, I would want to call it Flitwick. Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Genuinely, that was on the cards. But Willow, I mean, Alison Hannigan.
Doggy.
Alison Hannigan would actually, when I was younger, she was my draw to the show more than anything. And when I saw the show, I'd never seen her in anything. And this is when I was like 11 or 12, I think. But like when I saw the show, I was like, oh yeah, Buffy's cool, but I'm in love with Willow. There was just something about her, and I think I barely watched any of season 1, so I think I was more series 2, 3-ish when I kind of got on board. And then I remember the Glory season quite a lot. I think that was kind of the main, 4 and 5 were the main ones I remember from when I watched the first time, which obviously you get Oz, and Oz is amazing. Love Oz. And then you get the Adam Finn stuff, Adam Riley stuff, which is a bit boring. And then the Glory and the Joyce stuff is like, all of that is what I remember, like Willow. And then there's the Dark Willow stuff. And I just loved her hugely, her whole thing. So with Willow, obviously you agreed to name our dog, after Alison Hannigan's character. Like, what did you think of her as a character as a whole?
Yeah, I like seeing her progress. I like her.
Yeah, and Dark Willow, I know he's touched on it a little bit earlier, but Dark Willow, like, did you like that story arc? Because that's a very big...
I remember enjoying it. I remember, like, there are things about that series that I think, like, again, it's the feeling. So, like, I associate memories with how I felt in the moment. So, like, I specifically remember when she fucking flayed that guy. So, yeah, like, because I was like, what the fuck? I was like, where the hell did that come from? Because is that in the same episode when Tara dies, or is the episode after?
It's after. Yeah, she has a bit of a vengeance.
So there was those 2 episodes, and when Tara got shot, I was just like, oh my God. Like, and I remember saying to Mike, like, she's not dead though, is she? Like, she's not going to die.
She has a bullet wound. It's in Buffy. We've literally seen worse than that.
She's not going to die. And then Mike was like,
and then afterwards, I explained the whole situation behind the scenes
but anyway, but then she flayed that guy, and I was just like, oh wow, okay, I like Willow. Willow's a cool character,
and you said before, like and
she's smart.
She is very smart. That's
and
the thing.
It's nice to have a empowering woman that's smart and not just like, here are my chebs. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Or just that smart is her whole personality. Because kind of how she started.
It's not like she's just going to put glasses on and then she's now a smart girl.
But we said, like, with Willow and Tara, like, one of the things of this show that we were surprised by, especially that because you kind of knew about the whole stuff in the background with the creator, and I'm not saying he's the reason this was progressive.
So I didn't know any of the stuff to do with the creator of the show. I didn't know any of the negative stuff until Mike told me about it, because... Again, I hadn't really watched any of his stuff. Like, we only watched Firefly for the first time.
Well, because we enjoy Buffy,
recently.
We decided to watch Firefly.
But
when
it came out that Willow's gay, I was like, when did this show come out? Like, I remember saying that and being like, when did this show come out? And Mike was like, oh, it came out in whatever. Like, this series came out in this part, and I was like. Obviously, I'm all for one showing love. I don't care who kisses on TV. It doesn't make a difference to my life.
You've been to many, many lesbian weddings.
Yeah. I've been to, yeah.
You love them.
I do. I love a gay wedding. But yeah, I was like, I was genuinely surprised that they had a same-sex kiss on this show, considering when it came out. So I thought it was quite progressive. I was just like, that's really cool. I really like that. That's awesome.
They took a while to get there, didn't they? But because
they did take a while to get there. There were lots of like hand touching and like subtleties before actually it happened. And then the way that they, I think, handled the awkwardness around her friendship group, and then afterwards dealing with that, I thought it was done really nicely, which I find so bizarre considering who created the show. But obviously, as you guys have said, there were other people in the background as well. It's not just him. But yeah. I really liked that. I think it was, I really, really enjoyed that show for those elements. It's all about like inclusivity and being a family, regardless of what you are, who you are. It's lovely.
Yeah, I mean, we all know Rhea really well, and one of her big things is found family. And I do wonder how much you can trace back to her being a passionate Buffy fan at that really important age of that germination of where you yourself are finding who you are, what you want your values to be. So yeah, I mean, I think if I'm watching Buffy in '97, I'm 17. So if she's watching it, she's 14, and then we're both going through it. We're both watching it. She's just a couple of years younger than me. So it's really interesting to hear you say that, man, because I think you can probably, you know Rhea really well, probably think, oh yeah, I can see that. Oh, I can see that. Oh, that character, that I can see how they've informed her. And because again, Buffy is a fan family show. That's who all those people are. They love each other in that way. They don't always get on, and they bicker and argue and do silly things and hurt each other. But families do that, unfortunately. I think you're right. The way they handle that, and it was progressive. That's the only word for it. It was one of the first shows that felt confident enough in the characters they had and the writers they had to show this on screen. And I think being gentle and careful about how you then show a kiss, I think that's okay. And I think it's backed up by the fact that when you then get to a musical episode, you make a joke out about them going down on each other. I think that's... I think, we'll take our time to kiss, but then half a season later...
We're going to have a song about it. We're going to have a song about... right in the middle.
So I think, that's all right. That's the two ends of the spectrum.
And I do think Amber Benson did all that work, too, with the awkwardness. Like, she's really good actor, and she really...
Tara?
Yeah.
Megan's
so I don't know actors' names.
Amber Benson is Tara, and she does a lot of that work for us because it's like now we've got this stronger, smarter, like season 3 Willow when she outsmarts the mayor when she's not witch Willow yet, right? I mean, she's a little bit, but like the mayor stuff.
I completely forgot that I completely forgot that she didn't do any of the witchy stuff until she went to uni. Completely blew. Because she was becoming like
she did a little bit
an IT mastermind, wasn't she? She was becoming a hacker.
Giles knew a bit about more about magic.
Yeah, I completely forgot.
Giles dabbled a little bit.
Yeah, even more so. Yeah, Willow's arc is fantastic. Sorry, Tony, I interrupted you. I completely forgot.
No, but I mean that's the whole thing is like because in season 3 when she outsmarts the mayor when he captures her and like. She doesn't damsel in distress it, right? In that moment, she that is such a powerful moment. So then when you meet Tara and she's then the meek again, like you said, it's a little bit regressive with Anya making her go become a demon again. They don't weaken Willow in that way. I mean, they handicap her with her addiction later, but then you bring Tara in, and I just think Amber Benson does such a great job. And to me, the episode is the family episode, right? Is the one when Amy Adams shows up as the awful cousin, and Tara's family comes, and then everybody's kind of like becomes Tara's backup dancer, and it's such a lovely episode. But it's about being a witch, but it's about being gay. Like it's so well written. It is such a well written, brilliant show. That particular episode because it's like, oh, did your mother know, and all this, and and it's all about witches, but it's not. I mean, it's clearly the actors are like Tara's family is. There's actors are portraying it in a very specific way about her coming out as a witch. So it's just so good. And again, I think Amber Benson's performance as Tara she's my favorite character. I think it comes down to her. I don't know who else tried out for it. I don't know who else could have been, but in my mind, it's her. It's always her. It'll always be her forever and ever. And I just think there's just something so sweet and lovely and pure and good about her, and that she's willing to give up things in season 6 for somebody she loves. And again, that goes back to what you were saying, Jack, about the found family thing, is that Tara has found a family. Like she's so lost, but she still loves, like she still needs to walk away from Willow because that's what the right thing to do, but she still takes care of Dawn. So it makes me sad. It was such bad blood. I mean, she'd written her own comic book series about Willow and Tara. Like she's a writer in her own right. And when she left Buffy, she went on with Christopher Golden, who was writing the novelizations of Buffy, and then wrote some books with him. So it's like her career was okay, but it really kneecapped her in a way that wasn't fair to her as an actor.
Yeah. And I was going to say with Willow and Buffy. I mean, you mentioned Dawn there very briefly. So
I was going to ask about
Dawn.
There's
a question from
ever divisive Dawn.
Yeah, there's some questions from Jenna and Rhea who I've been integrating into my questions. Tony's asked them. There will be maybe some quick fire at the end if we haven't just loosely touched upon these. But thank you to Jenna and Rhea once again for these questions. So Jenna asked, what side of the Dawn fence did you sit on? Did you enjoy the boom, here is the sister, we never spoke about before, or what? Because obviously when we watched the episode...
When did she get introduced? What
right
series?
At the end of an episode.
Yeah, no, I know it was right at the end of an episode.
5.
But what series?
Is it 5?
Season 5, episode 1, I think, yeah.
So
end of the Dracula
end
episode,
of 1 or
it?
end of 2, it ends.
I think it's end of Dracula, isn't it? Like,
Dracula
wacky
she goes
stuff.
home and then the door...
Yeah.
God, that's late. Series 5.
Yeah.
Right at the start of Series 5.
She's the MacGuffin.
It's hinted at in that season 4 ends in episode 21, weirdly. They defeat Adam, the cyborg guy, and the initiative. So then we get one extra episode, which is the dream sequence episode, And it's all about setting up. I fucking love that episode. It's setting up what's going to happen in season 5, which we also argued is the best scripted arced season as well, because they knew at this point this is going to be it. This is what we want to do. And there's a moment when Buffy is talking to Faith in the dream, and she's just like, "Be ready for the break of dawn." I'm paraphrasing that incorrectly, but it's like, "Be ready for dawn," which we all heard in the show of like, "Oh, something new is going to happen," but actually, the new thing is this sister. So it was all set up for the start.
She's the old thing, isn't she? Because when it's the guy at the start.
Yeah, no, the weird monkey man, like as in a monk. He's like a monk. Not a monkey man as in
like, I mean, that would show up in Buffy, to be fair.
Amazing. You know. I'm here for that. Andy Serkis showing up. Yeah. Doug Jones and Andy Serkis. Wouldn't that be amazing? Yeah.
What do you think of Dawn?
I remember when Dawn appears.
You were so confused.
And I was so confused. I like looked at Mike and I was like, she's not always had this sister, has she? And Mike was like, no, this is a new character. And I was like, then I don't understand. How does she have a sister?
I didn't say that immediately. I said, well, she did. And you're like, what? No, she... And you were like... And I was like...
debating with myself. I was like, I'm pretty sure she's not got a sister.
And then you're like, what do you mean? And you're like, just tell me, has she got a sister? I was like, you kind of have to watch to realise. No,
like, just tell me. I was just like, just tell me.
It's a whole thing. It's not just in the first episode.
Just tell me whether or not she had a sister prior to this moment. The answer is no, she didn't. And she just appeared out of nowhere.
Yes, she always did, though.
Yeah, well, yeah.
It's a very weird thing, isn't it? It's something very odd.
I don't mind Dawn. I think there are some parts with her that are a bit annoying. Like, isn't there? There's like a plot where she's like a kleptomaniac at some point. And I feel like that doesn't really add anything apart from obviously she's being somewhat ignored and then therefore she's lashing out because she wants the attention. But that's just like, you know,
she kind of grows a bit and then stunts and then grows a bit and then stunts.
Yeah. I think towards the end she's a great character. I just think the fact that she suddenly appears is quite abrupt. And I as much as I like the Glory season, I find it very confusing at the same time because there's lots of elements that are going on with Dawn being the key. Is that right? So, yeah.
And Glory and her brother being the same person.
Oh, yeah, the nurse. Yeah. There's so many things that I forget.
That's why I think a Buffy...
It's like I'm reliving it.
With a Buffy rewatch, I imagine with you guys, I'll ask Jack first, like because you guys have both rewatched Buffy quite a few times before even Season's Greetings, but like I imagine because of the sheer volume of episodes in the show, it must be really fun to rewatch because it's like, I forgot about this or that detail or that thing. So I want to know from each of you, do you feel that way, Jack? And also, when Dawn, because you're watching in real time, when the Dawn thing happened, was that while you were like directly watching it on TV or did you get it spoiled for you? Like, how did the Dawn thing impact you as well?
The Dawn thing, yeah, real time. The only thing I ever had spoiled for me in Buffy, unbelievably, was the end of season 5. Was on the day of airing something on, I think on the radio or somebody said like, it's the episode where Buffy dies. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
Oh my God.
Still didn't stop me absolutely distraught and destroyed and weeping and snot and all sorts. No, it was in real time. It was wonderful. I love a puzzle box style storytelling, like early J.J. Abrams, you know, back to Lost, Alias, his Star Trek stuff, less so, but he builds a lot of his stuff around this sense of like there's one central puzzle, there's this thing that he wants you to figure out as the characters are figuring it out. So for me, the Dawn concept really works, and I really liked it at the time. She's bratty and annoying, don't get me wrong, to begin with, but then she's meant to be bratty and annoying. So the character, you know, the actress is doing what is required for the character. But I think as a plot device for what she serves in season 5 is, and where it takes us to, is absolutely wonderful. The growth that it allows for Buffy, the rallying round of the friends and the found family, and the importance of protecting her as this central figure, I think is a brilliant decision, and I think totally pays off by the end. You forget the annoyance of the bratty stuff. So as a character, I feel that way. And in terms of watching, you're right, you do. I think I've seen it enough times now. I couldn't sit here and go, right, in episode 1 this happens, and in this episode. But if you take away those 7 episodes per season that are shit, and I want to forget, I probably could. I probably could, by and large, like in season 2, I could almost, beat for beat tell you what's happening with what character and where they go and why. But I do think it's a layered enough show that it doesn't matter how many times you watch it, you will spot something new that will remind you, that's why. I remember talking about season 2, Tony, when we did Season's Greetings, and I was like, as much as I remember it, watching the moment in season 2 when she catches the sword, when Angel was trying to stab her, Angelus, I should say, he's trying to stab her, and he's like, I've taken away your friends, I've taken your like, I've absorbed your power, like you've got nothing left. What are you going to do now? And she's like, she catches the sword. He's like, what's left? And she's like, me. I don't need anything else. And it's such a powerful moment in the show. And I remember when we were talking about it, it was like, I've forgotten how good that moment was. So I think that's what I find each time I watch it. There's certain moments which sing more than I remembered, or sing anew, because I'm in a different place when I'm rewatching it, perhaps.
And then Tony, you were Dawn, and the same question to you.
Yeah, no. So Dawn, so that was right about the time when it was during season 5, where I don't think I finished all of season 5 in real time, just #life. You have children and stuff. But I do remember that happening, and I remember the Dawn appearing, and it was like growing up with sitcoms that did this. This is the thing that happened. So like 2 sitcoms that I remember, Family Ties and Growing Pains, which people mix up, but they're not remotely the same. But both shows added a kid late, added a baby, and then the next season they aged up the kid but the rest of the characters didn't age up. They didn't skip forward in time. No, it's true. So
like Rocky 5.
What's that?
Like Rocky 5.
Yes,
I've gone to Russia for 3 months, and now my son is 10 years older. What?
That's exactly because he wanted his own son to play the role. So, so these things would happen where they'd bring in a baby, and they're like, having children on set is really expensive. Having babies, so like that's why it was always miraculous that the Full House managed to keep those Olsen twins. Like that's why they were the twins playing the one character, because you can't have one kid on screen for too long. That's why the twins played the one character. Well, anyway, so it's cheaper to just hire a 5-year-old and just have one kid. So a lot of shows did this, but the rest of the characters didn't. And then they just pretended. There were these fake episodes where they'd be like, oh, remember when Andy was 3? And you're like, no, Andy was never 3 on this show, but they write those lines in. So to me, Dawn was that. Dawn was a commentary on that from we Gen Xers who lived with that. So I was here for it, because like, haha, this show that's so irreverent and so making fun of culture while creating culture, like, and how on the nose it was. Don't Scully me, Giles. Like, that isn't even on their network, but they're acknowledging that they watch the X-Files on Buffy. Like, of course they do. Like, are you fucking kidding me? So like the amazing stuff that happens, the commentary on culture is there. So I was fine with it. The more times you watch it, what I notice are the subtle performances of the actors' growth. Like watching how Allison Hannigan becomes this comedic genius, like her physical comedy skills grow, which you don't see. But really, when you look back on season 1, Willow's doing a lot of physical comedy. Like, she as an actor has to do work. So those are the things I noticed. And then there's like some episodes that you just like, it doesn't move the plot along. So like the dummy.
I fucking hated that.
You hated that. Was the most creepy episode for you.
The ventriloquist dummy, I absolutely hated, because not only do I hate ventriloquist dummies anyway, but he was a creepy pervert, that dummy. I fucking, like, there was like, I hated it. I really, really hated it.
What have you done?
I'm sorry. I remember when that episode came out, I sent Jack a message like, I totally blocked that one out because it doesn't move the plot forward at all. It is just a one-off, because season 1 was very much like The Master, but it was a lot of introducing the world. So lots of villains of the week, as we move away from just vampires and like understanding the Hellmouth, you got to have these other things. But so like sometimes you're like, oh, or my favorite is when you're like, oh, that actor. Like The Mandalorian.
Pedro Pascal. Yeah, we saw him pop up. And I was like, oh my God. I took a photo. I was like, I didn't realize he was in it. Because obviously at the time when I saw it, Pedro Pascal wasn't who he was. And I was like, that stuff I love when you watch an older show.
And if you watch the original Buffy the Vampire Slayer, you will see the movie in the background on the basketball court. You will see a very young, non-speaking role, Ben Affleck.
Oh, really? Wow.
Wow. That's fun.
Babyface Affleck. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, it's crazy. So it's like there's a lot of those like walk-on things, like people in the background of Buffy that are really cool to see. So, and for me, it's just such great writing. It's really a masterclass on how to shape a story and how to but Jack said, sometimes you're like, it's 22 episodes, so you got to have a filler episode, and that's too bad. Yeah. Because if they were to do it now, it would be like Justified. It would be like Deadwood. You're like, oh, we're going to do 13 episodes. That's what we've got. And so then there's no bullshit. We would never have to do worst episode because Beer Bad wouldn't happen. That episode wouldn't happen.
Teacher's Pet wouldn't happen.
Oh, that episode, man, the praying mantis one.
Well, one of the other questions was least favorite episodes, and the praying mantis Teacher's Pet. That was series 1. And when I was saying to Megan, look, I know some of these episodes are rough, but
when
please
I watched that
trust me, get through season 1 of Buffy.
That was early on in the series really as well. It's not like
episode 3 or 4.
Yeah, it was an early one, and I was like, what on God's earth?
It feels like a Doctor Who episode from like the really early season of Doctor Who, where you're like, I mean, even modern day Doctor Who, it's like, here's these 4 big, massive episodes which use up 80% of our budget, and now we have to fill up these other few episodes with paper mache. And
like that annoying, horrible sex one where Riley and Buffy don't stop
where the wild
having
things
sex.
Are. Yeah,
there's that one, but there's also the one where, do you remember that guy has that horrible jacket? I just remembered it. In the last season, he's got that jacket that any woman want to sleep with him, and then she sleeps
the
with
jacket.
She's the counselor, and she sleeps with the student on the fucking table.
And
his brother's jacket and stuff, and that is
because Buffy, he uses it on Buffy in one point in the episode as well, and she's coming onto him. Yeah. Yeah,
that episode, those sex-orientated ones that are like just, they're not the best. They're not the best. And the other horrendous one, which we would mention. I wanted to mention that because that was in the questions.
But the Willow Tara sex joke in the song, in Tara's song from Once More with Feeling, is brilliant.
Yeah,
especially because it cuts back to the magic shop. And Dawn's like, what are Will and Tara doing? It is so brilliantly edited. That was one thing we talked about too, Jack, wasn't it? Is how good the editors were on this show. It was really, really remarkable. Because you talked about dream sequences a lot and how they did it well. And then Rhea talked about it in our wrap-up episode. And that takes good editing. And your favorite episode was all editing.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. I think I was going to say the sex thing is, it was a weird era of TV, I think, where sex was either... Yeah, a 200, like, let's think of like Buffy and Angel when they first have sex and then he turns into Angelus. It's either like slow-mo, like steamy, like 16-year-old girl with a 200-year-old man, and this is sexy. Okay. Woo, let's make it sexy. Or like, like all the Buffy and Riley episode where it's filmed in a similar kind of way. Or it's taboo and it's not.
It's the Spike and Buffy stuff a lot, and that's like, it's spoken, but it's basically abusive, and it's like, this is a weird place you're going.
I just don't think they knew how to show kind of healthy sex at this point in TV, particularly, I guess, maybe network TV, where they had a lot of rules they had to follow. So I think Buffy does fall foul of that in a lot of its seasons. I think because it nobody really was doing it right at that point, if I'm honest.
Yeah. It's true. And then season 4 of Angel, they really screw it up. So you think some of this was bad. Season 4 of Angel.
Yeah,
it's bad news. Bad news bears.
I never watched that with Angel, but I did want to ask another question, which came from Jenna. It was only because we're not going to talk about this character otherwise. I know for a fact because he's boring as hell. But like, what did you think of Wesley? Did he give you ick at the beginning? And like him, and there's a follow-up, which is what character we'd like to see more of. But Wesley is a character, and especially Wesley, because we spoke about Giles a little bit, but like Giles kind of goes up and down with like, oh, he's just a nerdy British librarian, and then he's kind of got a dark past,
fucking Ripper,
and then he's actually like really awful in a lot of ways. But no, he's pulled back a bit, and it's just like, I think realizing that Giles is not morally. Is quite morally grey as a person is a real changing point for the audience and for Buffy as a character. But Wesley, like, he just pops up, is a bit of a pain and then goes to Angel. But I didn't know, what did you think about him? And Giles?
I didn't like Wesley to begin with. I don't think I don't really remember him that well.
He's like Giles in season 1.
No. I remember Wesley. I don't remember what happens. What happens to him?
He just leaves with Cordelia, doesn't he? Like, they go to Angel together.
Well, yeah, so he leaves Sunnydale at the end of season 3, having survived graduation day. And then...
When was graduation day?
My perception of the timeline of this show is so erratic.
He's only in season 3.
That's mental.
Buffy, because it's at the time when sort of they're looking at removing Giles because he's not doing the job they want him to do it, because he has fallen in love with Buffy. He has become her real surrogate father. So he's not being her watcher, he's being her father who watches her. That sounds weird, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So they're looking to remove me from Remember the Watchers Council come, and Wesley now becomes her official watcher.
Yeah, no, Wesley can fuck off.
Well, he can. Wesley is a doofus and a wanker in Buffy. Don't get me wrong. He sort of has a slight redemption by the end of season 3. You're never going to watch Angel, right?
Probably not. No.
It's too many episodes.
Greatest character arc ever, Jack.
Greatest character arc ever on TV, in my opinion, is Wesley. Because of where he starts in Buffy and where he ends in Angel. So he comes in halfway through season 1 when they planned this big twist where they kill off one of the main characters halfway through Angel season 1. And the point of that was meant to be like, oh, we're grown up, we're edgy, like you never know what we're going to do. And then basically nobody really dies ever again.
That's the one death.
Yeah, sort of. But when they're not writing people out because they're not getting on with the creator anymore.
Correct.
Oh,
yeah.
No.
Yeah. But the arc Wesley has in Angel... I think you'll back me up, Tony. Maybe you're not quite as strong in your feelings as best character arc ever, but I know you really like it.
Oh, it's amazing. Oh,
it is wonderful.
Yeah,
where he goes is you won't believe who he becomes by the end.
Wow.
Do you like him more at the end than you like Giles at any point? Because Giles, I don't know how I feel about Giles.
I don't know about I just think I don't unless we did a blow by blow now of what happens to Wesley throughout that season, you wouldn't be able to make it up now. There's no way
you can't.
There's no way you could sit there and come up with what they decide to do with him as a character.
It is truly a 5-year journey, and it is really, and he goes to the tippity top, and he totally bottoms out. And it is honestly, Alexis puts his all, and he's the best actor in the Angel series, and especially when you see where he starts here. And to where he ends there, he is. I mean, Amy Acker. I mean, like Angel has really good actors, but like he really owns it. And so, do I like Wesley more than I like? I agree. It's not like I like Giles still better than Wesley, but Giles was already fully formed. Wesley's just a young person who's still under the thumb of an overbearing dad, and so you see him come out from under that. Where like Giles is like trying to rehabilitate himself from being an asshole teenager. Wesley didn't get to be an asshole teenager because of his dad. So it's like he goes through the shit. He's a terrible character in Buffy, but that's also intentional. And in real life, he marries Allison Hannigan. So win for him.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
That's cool. I didn't know that.
By the way, when we finish recording, all I want to do is just sit and can we sit for 3 hours? And I'm just going to explain to you everything that happens just to get your reaction.
It's amazing. I want that. I need that as an afterthought.
And then this happens. This happens. It's so great.
I wish someone could make, like, they did it with this an anime called Dragon Ball Z, which I'm sure most people have heard of. And I love Dragon Ball Z, but it's renowned for its filler and flashback episodes. There's the Cell Games saga, and half of it is a flashback, and it takes up several episodes. And in that, there's another flashback. None of it's relevant. It's playing old stuff you've already seen. They released something called Dragon Ball Kai, which is HD remastered. They did some of the animation again, and they redid a lot of the vocal work, and then they literally just edited the show. The show is only about 2/3 the length of Dragon Ball Z. It tells the exact same story. I've seen them both. And Dragon Ball Kai just cuts out all the filler. And I'm like, all you need is like a clever editor, like do like the ultimate Buffy 4K collection. And it would kill fans, because I'm sure there'd be a lot of episodes we all love that would be cut, but almost like the quintessential Buffy of like, here's the equivalent of 5 seasons or 4 seasons. It's all been remastered a little bit. And we just cut out 1 or 2 scenes that aren't necessary. And then, certain episodes that just add nothing. And I think like a supercut of it, but that of Angel. That's what we need. Because watching Buffy, and I'd seen Buffy before and I really liked it, and we were enjoying Buffy. We got to series 6 and we were like, we're enjoying this.
It did take a while.
It's like 18 hours per season.
It got to the point where we were like, we need to finish watching Buffy before
we booked the Buffy Revisited thing, Buffy revamped.
Did we get Willow before or after we finished Buffy?
Before, because we got it before the Dark Willow stuff.
Well, we got our Willow before the Dark Willow stuff.
Yeah, I'm pretty certain. Wait, no.
No, I don't think so.
We decided on the name. It was quite close, but we watched Buffy.
I think we got Willow the dog just before we finished watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And then, we went to see a one-man show.
Yeah, Buffy revamped.
Was Buffy revamped.
Which is really good,
and we had to watch Buffy before we went and saw that.
Because you're right, it would have spoiled it.
Yeah, it would have spoiled the ending.
Yeah.
It's and one thing as well, I'm sure you guys have got a couple of questions for Megan, your own. I've got one or two more things here I want to ask from Rhea. Rhea asks, what is your favourite love story, relationship?
So,
platonic or...
So, I was thinking about this earlier, and we discussed this earlier, but whilst we've been doing this podcast, I've just remembered one that I would probably say is also a good one for me. And that is Giles and the teacher
Jenny,
from the school.
Jenny Calendar.
Who gets killed by...
who gets killed by Angel. Yeah.
That's a rough episode.
That was rough.
That was a shocker to me, because there's definitely, it was one of the first times that was done, and it also sets the tone, right? I mean, season 1 they kill the friend, right? And then Xander's buddy, and then season 2 you do this, and then it really is setting the tone for them doing things, for what Whedon does. He's willing to kill a character, and there's a young adult writer called Scott Westerfeld who is willing to kill a character. I appreciate that. I do think that it's important that there needs to be, this will be pun intended, there does need to be some stakes. And so I do think that. So that was your favorite relationship, is Giles and Jenny?
I don't think it's necessarily my favorite. It's just one that I kind of forgot about. I think my favorite relationship is, romantic relationship is Willow and Tara. They're my favorite. But I did think about Giles and what's her name? Jenny Calendar.
Jenny Calendar.
And I was like, that was really sweet. And that, again, is one of the episodes that I remember that having. I don't remember anything else about that episode specifically, but I remember the feeling that I had when he kills her. And I was like, oh my God, no, Charles deserves
Seeing
to
all
be
their
happy.
reactions to that is one of the strongest emotional moments. I'm not surprised that resonates. You see, there's a phone call, I think, if I remember rightly, he said, but you see it from outside of the Summers house.
Yeah.
And the phone call and the way they all crumble and the way they all deal with it. I'm not surprised that resonates with on stage. Yeah.
I mean, to me, the relationship, the relationship is Buffy and Willow. That is the relationship. That is that is the point of the show.
That's what saves the world almost every time.
Is
women got to get together, and Crazy Ex-Girlfriend could sing a song about it, ironically. But I do think, to me, that's the one. I mean, romantic relationship, Willow and Tara, forever. Fuck you, Kennedy.
You guys hated Kennedy, didn't you?
The potential girl,
the young one that Willow kind of got involved with.
I thought she was all right. I wasn't that fussed by her.
We didn't hate her like you guys did. You guys hated her, and we were like, "Oh, she's a bit annoying."
She got a little bit big for her boots at parts, I think.
Yeah, but she's kind of almost like Buffy was in season 1 in a way.
Yeah,
so it's almost like Willow's found another little project.
She'll start piping up, and I'm like, shush now, shush.
Yeah, she had no experience.
Let the adults speak.
And no powers. Buffy, by the time of season 1, had already stopped. Because the film is kind of canon, because the show starts with them having to move because of the events of the movie. So she had already had to, be involved with vampires and stopped a uprising at a different place. So yeah, fuck Kennedy.
Yeah, fucking Kennedy is the worst, and she hangs around in the comics too. And you're like, ugh,
stinks.
Not a fan. Not a fan. And the act, no offense to the actor. I mean, she's doing the job she's asked to do, but yeah, she can fuck right off. And I know it's just because, again, I love Tara so much, but even if you're going to kill Tara, then you know what? I need Willow to go, be like Nun Willow for a while, Nun Witch Willow, like Wicca Willow, just commune with herself. Not that she can't go get laid and do whatever, but fuck you, Kennedy. We don't need you. You're in the way. You suck. Of all the potentials, she's my least favorite. They tried so hard to make her a thing. Fuck off. Faith is right there. If we need somebody who's salty and a badass, we've got Faith. We don't need you. For fuck's sake.
Yeah. I think that I agree with all of that, by the way. But I think it's really interesting talking about it now, though. I don't even know if I thought of the time when we spoke about it at the time, but Kennedy is the Riley, isn't she? The trouble is they can't when you lose Angel, it's that epic love and that like. I know Megan, you know, as a character, you find him quite bland, but he is that epic love for her, isn't he, as a character? Yeah. So Riley was always going to fall flat. He was never going to live up to, and it's the same, isn't it? Whoever came after Tara, because somehow, miraculously, Tara did replace Oz, but I think because they did something so radical and because she was such a good actress and the character so interesting, but nobody's going to be able to replace her. So it was always a losing battle. But they didn't have to, as you said, Tony, give it to the worst fucking option possible.
But she adds nothing to the plot either. That's no. To Willow or to the plot. She does. It's just, hey, loads of people are making out. What can Willow do? Let's just give her a young girl to make out with. And you're like, what? But can't Willow just be meditating or doing something cool? Like, wouldn't that have been made more sense for the whole magic stuff? Is like she's
working on herself.
Kind of like inward. Like I don't need outward love. I've got me. I'm just okay with myself for a bit.
Well, and you can, in that moment too, that's when you can bring Jenny back, which, because you realize, and this again is good story arc, is that Jenny's a techno-pagan. Willow's the hacker. Like, you see the seeds are set there. So, like, to me, you need her to do something, have her commune with the spirit of Jenny Calendar, whether you actually bring the actor back or whatever. Like, there's stuff for her to do, right? Hone her skills, figure the shit out, be the Willow we need her to be Detective Willow. And again, if she needs to bang one of the girls, great. She can do that. But like, I don't need them to be
a thing
in a relationship. It was, ugh, I just dislike her so much. And she really, I mean, the thing is about season 8 with Xander, and spoilers, but Xander and Dawn are together in season 8. Gross. But like, Kennedy's still around.
Dawn and Xander get together
oh, right. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, you said that earlier. That's gross.
She needs to go away. I mean, Dawn's a giant at the beginning. Dawn becomes a giant. So there's a lot of fun stuff in season 8, but like, because, you know, there's no budget in comic books, but they still have Kennedy. You're like, look, this well has run dry. It didn't work in the show. There's a good chance you could just write her out. Let's be done. My question is, who's your favorite baddie, right? I mean, that's who's your favorite big bad?
I've noted obviously a lot of them down here.
Who's my favorite baddie? I like Spike as a baddie. And to be fair, Angel as a baddie is decent. He's a good baddie.
Yeah.
Probably one of those two, to be fair. Because, like, with the final series, with the final episode, I finished feeling quite underwhelmed by it. Like, I was expecting it to be this, like, really awesome, epic thing, and, like, it just fell a bit flat for me. So the final series, again, I also found quite confusing because there was just lots of things going on because they were trying to wrap it up, but it also kind of felt a bit rushed. Like the actual final episode, there's this big build up when they go to, is it the Hellmouth or is it some sort of cave? It is the Hellmouth. Yeah. Where they are going to the Hellmouth and it's all this massive build up and then they're only fighting for like, 15 minutes?
And they're all these uber vamps that everyone's suddenly okay with fighting.
And then they like, loads
destroyed
of,
Buffy and all of them.
Then like a handful of people die, Anya dies, nothing really is said about her. Like, she just gets sliced and then it's just panned away.
You missed it the first time.
Yeah.
You were like drinking a glass of water and she was just gone. And then later you were like, wait, what happened to Anya? And I was like, you didn't see. I had to rewind it.
No, because it barely happened.
But then Andrew.
Yeah. But then they end up in the bus at the end.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, what should we do? I don't know. Let's go shopping. I was like, why are you making a joke? Like,
but that's like Buffy's thing, isn't it? That's what I think one of you guys said. It was like, because I think on Discord I mentioned, we finished Buffy, but I wasn't as much of a fan of the ending.
Yeah,
because it wasn't serious enough. And I think when you guys said, well, that's the show. It's Buffy deals with everything with humour. It's all quippy. And so it kind of makes sense.
My other thing, I know that this is completely going off tangent to what your actual question was, but my other thing is that I obviously don't want a ton of characters to die, but I just think the likelihood of all of them surviving, like all of the principal characters surviving, is very slim. Like, Anya died.
Spike sort of died. Anyone who else?
Andrew. Yeah, but he's not a principal.
No, Andrew lives.
No, Andrew lives.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Anya saved.
No, of course, he saved. Sorry, yeah, I mean,
Wood dies, doesn't he? Or
no, he doesn't. He dies.
The principal, he doesn't die.
Yeah, he dies, and then he actually doesn't.
Oh, does he?
I don't think we see him again.
Yeah, no, he's in the bus. In the
bus, he comes back.
Yeah,
he wakes up.
I think they sort of say like.
All right.
We don't see him as a character again in canon. So
wow,
no, because they missed the boat on that though. Because I mean, the spin-off series of comics is Faith and Angel off doing stuff, which is a really good series. I really like the Faith and Angel series. It's really good because they, as we see in Angel later, they don't like each other. So what they do with them in the comics is really good. But the actors, right? We thought the spin-off show needed to be Faith and Principal Wood being they're like the
being
ultimate
hot together.
They are super being hot. Like, right, look at these two hotties going around fighting crime. I'm here for that. Like, that's
give me a 42-minute episode of them two having sex. I am in.
Principal Wood, to be fair, is a stunning man. Yeah. He's everything about him.
It was like the most good, like that is like the Zoolander episode of just the two of them like flirting, and you're like, these are very, very good looking people.
Every
ridiculous.
Girl at New Sunnydale has got "Love You" written on their eyelids for sure.
100%. Yeah, they do. Yeah. That's, I mean, it's tough, right? Because the mayor's so good, but that season Faith is also the big bad. So I feel like it's hard.
I'll tell you who's not the best big bad. Adam.
Yeah.
Adam
that series wasn't great. I mean, going back to your original question, probably Spike or Angel, to be honest. I liked the turn of Angel especially. I really liked him as a baddie.
And again, not to just totally talk about a show you're not going to watch, but in Angel, there's an episode where Angel has to play like Angel and Angelus kind of in a very Superman, like he's really channeling Christopher Reeve playing two different characters. And it is like that good. Like the way that Christopher Reeve plays the two different versions of himself fighting. It is that good. In a bad movie, Christopher Reeve is always good. And in that episode, it was really channeling that. So, and Angelus shows up sporadically throughout Angel too, and that is when he's at his best. David Boreanaz is charming and fun and all the things that he is. He's David Boreanaz, but when he's Angelus, boy, is he vicious. It really must be fun as an actor to be like.
I find Angel's boring as Angel. I find his character is so bland.
But you like him as Angelus.
Yeah, Angelus
that's how
is
I feel as well.
Really like Spike. I think's got the humor and the fluidity of being able to be good or bad, and it works for me. But with Angel, I'm like, you're so boring and bland. You're a vampire tea towel. I don't care about you. You're so fucking boring. Like he's almost like a 16-year-old girl said, "What's the perfect guy?" And like this, it's like, but there's no depth. There is. It's Angelus, but the problem is they don't. With Spike, there's depth because there's so many wounds and scars that run deep. He's always like bleeding on screen in a way. With Angel, I find that either he's completely tightly knit and there's no emotion or anything and he's pure Angel, or he's the worst, most evil, sadistic person ever and there's no in between.
He's like that because he's got a soul, right?
Yeah, but that whole stuff I think is weak.
I think the contrast and that was so much fun later was when Spike gets his soul. He's exactly the same.
Yes.
Which I think is wonderful. He's like, why have you been moping around for 70 years? Fuck this. We were vampires. We did what we were supposed to do. Now we've got souls. This is going into Angel a little bit, but like when they reconnect, but obviously we know Spike does it with his soul as well. It's brilliant. It's so good. But obviously season 7 we have Spike with his soul, and he's just getting on with things. He just doesn't really. When the first is messing with him, that's something else. At the start of season 7, Spike with his soul is Spike, which I just think is great.
Yeah, and the flashback Spike stuff is so good. So Spike is a baddie is great. Spike is a baddie is great because Drew's awesome. Yes. Like Drew's a great villain, and I know Spike is a hanger-on. Like when you see the flashbacks, you find out Spike is Spike only because of Drew. Like when he gets turned, he's influenced by Drew. Like Drew's, he becomes he's a little mad. He's a little mental. Like William the Bloody, like he's got the heart of a poet in there, and then he's also got the blood of a mad woman.
And the mum stuff. And that's really sad as well, wasn't it?
I really liked that. All happened in one episode, didn't it?
Yeah, it was a whole flashback.
I really, really, really liked that episode, but I felt very heartbroken for Spike.
He's had such a bad life in so many ways.
The actor at Marsters is amazing, right? Again, talk about charm for Miles. That guy. He's
Spike's
amazing.
My favorite. Yeah, Spike and Will are my two favorites.
Yeah,
Jack nods because Spike's his favorite. Yeah,
I've always loved Spike. Whenever I used to watch it, I used to always Spike. Whenever he'd come on screen, I'm like, "Yes, Spike, go on."
Spike is the character that makes me laugh the most. Like I actively remember audibly laughing at multiple of his lines because like he's just funny.
he goes beyond, like, the confines of the Scooby Gang are all kind of like, they're all like, we're the good guys and we're this and we're that. And he comes in and he's like, God, you don't have to be so pathetic about it. You don't have to be so lame. He's like, I'm cool and stylish and I'm this badass. And then he like trips over something.
I just love it.
He's like, I'm the coolest person on screen. He's like, yes, you are. And then
he runs really dumb with a blanket on top of him so he doesn't get caught on fire.
So it's like he's got coolness like 12 out of 10. But the problem is he's really like clumsy and just keeps having like really bad luck all the time. And I heard someone describe Han Solo as a Dungeons and Dragons character of like, he's got like max charisma, but he never rolls more than a 4. So every dice roll out of 20, it's always less than 4. So he tries to talk himself out of these incredible situations, and sometimes he does. But no matter how he gets himself out of a situation, he gets into an equally unlucky situation that only he could fall in. And it just seems like Spike's life is a consistent thing of like tripping down a hill and then finding a bit of money, but then falling again consistently. And I love it.
It is true. And and the fact that Clem is his friend tells you everything you need to know about. Like, there's a heart of gold in there, right? Because why would Clem like Spike?
I need to find a picture
of the dog demon guy.
I know what you're talking about, but I need to see a picture.
Yeah, and you see Spike. Oh, I love him. Sorry.
Clem is awesome. Well, the thing I love about Clem is like, I think he's one of those fan favorites that they didn't do enough with, but he is so good. And he's like just a good plot device where it's a very show don't tell. Because again, why would Clem loves Dawn, but who else loves Dawn? Spike loves Dawn.
I love the Spike Dawn relationship. That's my favorite, actually. That's really my sweet. Favorite relationship.
It's the end of series 5, isn't it? It's when Buffy like dies and and Spike like essentially like promises to look after Dawn, and it's like that really nice moment between her and Spike before she jumps in. It's like, ooh. Yeah,
he calls her a little bit, and it's fun that. What I like about that whole thing about the Dawn showing up, and I'm on Team Dawn, and I know Tanya was definitely anti Dawn, is that everybody remembers her. So she is new, and so even after Buffy dies and Glory's destroyed and whatever, the memories, their lifetime memories of Dawn stay with them. So like you can imagine a whole life of Dawn and Clem. Like, is Clem Dawn's dog? Do you know what I mean? Like, you think about like the life they have off screen in the history, and like the way that Spike always, even when he was evil Spike, he doesn't have the chip Spike. Whenever Spike, Dawn, in theory, when Darla or when Drew and Spike show up, Dawn was now there in the memory, right? So therefore, he never hurt her. Just like he always loved Joyce. When she shows up and they're just having tea, he doesn't. He doesn't. You know what I mean? Like there's this amazing charm, and it's all comes down to the actor being exceptional. There's no reason for that to work because he's one of your favorite villains, but he's also so great. Yeah. And Dracula sucks. We can all agree that Dracula should just pay Spike his 20 quid and go fuck off.
That was awful. I will say, I know we're getting towards the end, but I will say, like, Spike for me is the only thing that even remotely drew me to Angel. Like, I've only seen 1 or 2 episodes of Angel, and I was like, I don't like Angel as a character, and everyone around is just boring to me. It's like, we're all edgy and older. It's like,
Cordelia got better towards the end of her being in Thingy.
I think she has a bit of an arc in Angel as well. Maybe.
Why? She's so much older.
Oh yeah,
the actress is so much older. Yeah. You're like looking at what she's wearing, and you're like, you're not 15. You're like 30.
So we're getting right near the end.
And they do that weird aging up thing in Angel as well, because of course in Angel season 1 she should be 18, 19, but she acts and they play her as like she's in her late 20s. They do that.
By the time you get to midway through season 1, end of season 2 of Angel, we're no longer pretending that she's 20. No. She's like drinking and doing whatever, and we're just like, this is Charisma Carpenter. Like this is just her now. Yeah.
Just so we don't miss the questions, so there's one more or two from Rhea, just almost quick fire. Do you have a weirdest moment?
A weirdest moment?
Because your catchphrase, everyone knows you, is like you think things are weird and bad in certain ways. Like there's a lot of weirdness that goes on here.
There is a lot of weird in Buffy, but I think that makes it really difficult to pinpoint. I think probably one of the weirdest ones for me is the ventriloquist doll. Like, I remember seeing that and being like, what the fuck is this? Like, why is this guy in here? Because, like, what? Wasn't it like a spirit that's trapped in the doll's body? I can't really remember why the doll could speak. He's
like a demon. He's a rogue demon hunter.
Yeah.
What's a rogue demon?
Aren't all demons like I think the rogue demon would be Clem because he's the only demon that doesn't really act like a demon. Or there's one or two that don't.
Hey, look! Don't pigeonhole all demons, Mike. Don't be that guy.
Don't
be that guy.
Oh, no. Hashtag not all demons.
I'm sorry, guys. Sorry, demons.
Stop generalizing.
Hashtag Clem.
The other question, which was, and then we will have to wrap up, but it's, I'll ask the guys if they got anything else, but how relevant do you think Buffy is in today's world was one? And Rhea asked about why Xander's so toxic. I think we can avoid the Xander stuff just because Xander
just sucks.
And he's the worst. But
Xander is Joss Whedon, right?
Yeah, well, that's what we
said. His avatar, yeah.
And everything, a lot of what he says is just like, why is
Xander just has to say unnecessary comments that just are so irrelevant to anything that they're talking about. And it's just like having like a proper serious conversation. He's like, oh yeah, but my dick. It's just like, yeah, but why? Like, why do
because
you even...
that.
You doing that was funnier than almost anything Xander's
That's because
ever said.
I'm hilarious, Mike,
True.
and Xander's not.
Correct. And the other...
But the Zeppo is a nearly flawless episode.
Zeppo is a good one.
What one's that?
When Xander's like, he goes off on his own little side story.
Zombies.
When he's an army man?
No. When they're fighting a demon, but he's not invited because they don't want him to die, so he accidentally brings zombies back to life and then has to kill them on his own.
And no one knows about it. Like, he's like kind of saved people in a way, but... And he kind of gets thanked to me. He saves a couple of people's lives, and then the Scooby Gang don't know.
He fucking loses an eye.
That's a different point.
Yeah, I know that's a different part of the story, but I just remembered that he loses an eye.
Nathan Fillion pokes out an eye.
Oh, yeah.
Captain Mal, yeah.
Yeah, I forgot about that. And the other question from Jenna is, how relevant do you think Buffy is in today's world? I know we touched upon it with the kiss and that sort of stuff, but like, do you think it's timeless in a way? Do you think? Or?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I shouldn't be because what I'm about to say is just ridiculous. But sometimes when I watch TV shows and films, sometimes when there is a same-sex scene or a kiss, I'm still like, oh, which it shouldn't be like that. I shouldn't have to be like, oh, that's nice.
Like you notice it.
I shouldn't have to specifically notice that there is a same-sex thing going on. Like I shouldn't have to recognize that. However, I still think it's relevant because it's still all about inclusivity. And like we've spoken about it, it's about finding like found family. I think it's still relevant because it speaks about a lot of different topics. I think there are certain elements of it that probably isn't fantastic for nowadays, but
page me if the apocalypse comes. Sorry, what? What does that mean?
Page me. Yeah, that's right.
But otherwise,
she does have to say that line.
I think your comment about the same sex stuff, Megan, I think it's really true. I think because we're still in that process of it being totally normalized. It's the same as when you see a penis on screen. You're like, oh, there's a dick.
Yeah.
But like, oh, good.
I shouldn't have to get excited that there's a willy on screen because I genuinely do, even though they're foul.
Because there's always boobs. They are foul, it's true. But because you don't do it, when it's women's nudity, it's so normalised. Yeah. But when it's a penis, it's like, oh, penis.
Like even when we see a willy on screen, because I'm an advocate, like show me the willies.
Release the dawn.
I point it out when we watch films. If we see films, Megan has
to see Mike will be like, Megan, there's a willy.
Get ready, Trainspotting.
Oh, yay!
You look like a dick.
Well, and even in comics, right? Even in comic books, there's still like there's a lot of, like as I'm rereading Sin City, there's dicks in Sin City for sure, but there's like it's the ratio of like boobs to dicks is like 50-1. Although the one bartender has a dick nose, which is really funny in Sin City, so that's really good. But like it is true, it is absolutely true. We talked about it on the Nevers. You're like there's lots of sex scenes on on HBO. They could get away with stuff, but it's like there's no reason that dude is just showing his ass, right? I mean, he's definitely naked, so. Spin that around. It is true, though. You're absolutely right. It is. Yeah. Sorry, Jack. You were talking about dicks, and you were. Go ahead.
You can't stop me when I get started on dicks. No, I was backing up, Megan. I think it's true. And I don't think you're wrong to. I was backing up. I don't think you should question yourself. I think that's because that is still being normalised, which goes to show. To bring this full circle, how far ahead of its time Buffy was with that. That it was. I'm going to use a word, maybe not brave, but it was brave enough to take a chance in a popular show and something that was on a network to do that.
Yeah, on free TV. And it was, it was appointment TV, like you had to have an antenna. There was no, you could get it on cable, but like I watched it. I lived in the country. I just watched it on regular TV and I recorded it on a cassette. Like that's how I watched Buffy. And it was like, if it was stormy, I couldn't get, because it was before the digital conversion, so it was still analog TV. So sometimes you had to kind of watch it through the fuzz. But it was like, really, truly appointment TV for me. And so to me, the relevance of it is that it existed on TV. These other networks, like you don't get Gilmore Girls if you don't get Buffy, because that Buffy saved that network, right? You don't get the Arrow, you don't get the Flash, you don't get Legends. Those shows are paying homage to Buffy. It Supernatural, which ran for longer than Buffy, but you don't get it without Buffy. Like there's so many parts of culture that you don't get without Buffy.
Yeah. Charms, there's loads. You keep going. Yeah.
Man, woo, there's another banger of a show that, again, wouldn't have existed if it weren't for that. Yeah. And I get what you're saying about that. Like I'm finally getting around to watching the AMC version of The Interview with the Vampire. They made it into a I haven't even seen the movie issue series.
I've seen like 20 minutes of the movie, and I want to see the movie, but
it's like the gayest vampire book that ever was, without ever being any male men kissing. But
are there any dogs in the movie?
In the movie, no, because it's Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise. They're not showing dongs. But in the show, they're just like, you know what this is?
I love that, Mike. Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah, shame.
I really want to see Brad Pitt.
If any penis to see, Brad Pitt's is probably
to be fair, he probably has
one of the
really
best.
good looking.
You almost see it in Fight Club. You're like, is that part
Almost.
of it? It's so close, close to the penis.
You just want to pat your screen down a little
Pitt's
bit.
penis. I'm sorry.
It makes me think of that film, the one with Chris Hemsworth.
Oh, the
Royal
Bad Times at El Royale.
His trousers are so low.
It's hanging. The belt is almost hanging.
It makes me more nervous seeing that than just seeing his penis.
You know what? That's funny. To bring it full circle, Drew Goddard. That's a Drew Goddard picture.
Yeah. Is it? Because I love that film.
He wrote
it.
That movie is spectacular. Yeah. But all of that to say is the new Interview with the Vampire. They're just like, the boys are just going to make out. We're just going to make it. We're just going to gay it right up. Like everybody who reads the Vampire Chronicles are like, this is pretty gay vampire stuff. When are they just going to make out? And so in the TV show, they're like, you know what everybody wanted to see the vampires do? Make out. So guess what we're going to do? Louis and Lestat, episode 1, making out. Full on sex, Louis and Lestat. We're done. We're done pretending. So I appreciate, like, and again, there was some of that. There's like the tension that's here in this show. It allows you to do the things, right? It is. So to me, it's culturally relevant. And that was the whole point of Season's Greetings. And that's what we do at the end of every episode how does it play in the modern lens? And while we always agree, Jack, that there's things that could be better, for the most part, that it's been a net plus on culture.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah. And also, I'm sure they'd have done great in other ways, but all the amazing actors and writers and everything that benefited from it, especially Alison Hannigan and Sarah Michelle Gellar. I knew especially Gellar was in other stuff. But
we saw her in, what film was it?
Scream. It was Scream.
We saw her in Scream at the beginning, and I was like, oh, well, she's at the beginning. But then I was like, Buffy! Punch him! Come on, Buffy!
Well, she was in soap operas in America before that's how she got the role as Buffy. She had actually already won Emmys before she was on Buffy. You know what I mean? And Anthony Stewart Head, obviously, is an award-winning stage actor.
Massive.
So, yeah.
She was Cordelia, right? She was Cordelia in soaps. Like Sarah Michelle Gellar was the Cordelia type bitchy character. She was they wanted her for Cordelia.
They tried out for the opposite roles. Yeah. Cordelia tried out for Buffy, but then they went the way they went. Because the physicality, there's no way charisma could have done the work. Like, I know there's a lot of stunt doubles, but like Sarah charisma couldn't do the like, there's a reason you don't see Cordy doing lots of high kicks.
That's fair.
It was the right choice.
Yeah.
Flipping them.
I want to ask, is there anything, because we'll wrap up, but because we could talk about Buffy clearly forever, but do you guys have any final questions for Megan, primarily, that we haven't touched upon in this? Even any quickfire stuff, anything at all?
Do you think you will yourself revisit it? Do you think you'll go back one day?
I'd probably watch it again. Yeah, I definitely would watch it again.
I want to show our hypothetical children, like, this is,
We'll show Willow.
She loves watching TV. But that's the kind of thing that if we had kids and stuff, and then they got old enough.
What's the age? Because we talked about it on the show. Is that my kids were very young when they were watching Buffy. It was on TNT. We'd watch it before they'd go to elementary school. We were watching Buffy, and Emma said to me, Emma, who's non-binary, married to a trans man, said to me, part of what made Emma comfortable being themselves is Buffy, is seeing representation on Buffy, and so like. I always joked about, like, that's good parenting. I have a 5 and a 6-year-old. I had to prepare them about, like, Buffy's going to live. It's okay. Because they watched that episode. I'm, like, sending them off to school when Buffy dies. But they were, like, 6 and 7 when I let them watch it. And I felt that was totally acceptable. And now there were some of season 6 where I did skip those episodes. I'm like, oh, Buffy's not on today.
Mm-hmm.
right? But for the most part, I let them watch the whole thing in real time. So what would be the age you would let the hypothetical kids watch Buffy?
Depends on the kid, because I used to watch a lot. I'd say probably not before 10, but I think 10 to 12. I mean,
I was going to say 10 or 11.
Season 1 is 12, and most, because I had them on VHS, a lot of them, and on the VHSs, much like with DVDs, which is still perceived as agent for some people, and I have loads of them, is on the discs. I always used to like when I had series of like Simpsons or anything, seeing which discs are PG 12, 15, which ones. And so with Buffy, I was always like, this season, the middle tape, that's the one that's got the more crazy stuff in it. And so for me, and I watched it when I was, before I went to secondary school, so I watched them when I was actually like 9 or 10 when I started watching them. And I kind of loosely continued for a few years. So I think like...
I don't know if I've got a skewed perception on it because I wasn't allowed to watch it when I was younger and where I've watched it as an adult. I don't know. I would say probably editing. Around 10. But yeah, I would have to do editing.
But I think it opens up, because 10-ish, depending on the kid, is quite a good age to where questions can be asked about things like sex and adult things, and you can frame them in a way that's not
you
too
can
in-depth.
Answer them in an age-appropriate way, whereas obviously for a younger audience than that, if obviously you would skip the sex episodes, but it kind of makes it more challenging to answer those questions in an age-appropriate way.
Yeah. Well, we did our rewatch 2020. Did we do it? I think.
Yeah.
That lovely year. And I watched a lot of it. And my eldest son, he's 11 now. He was sort of around sometimes if it was a quiet part of the day. So he would have been 8-ish, 9-ish, and he sort of caught some of it here and there. Oh, Dad, what's happening now? But it didn't get his attention at that point. If it had, I would have been quite willing to say, why don't we watch some of these together then? So it's interesting. Like, MCU stuff he's totally on board with, Harry Potter, Star Wars. He's gone down the road of all of that, and he knows how passionate I am about Buffy, but that didn't quite get him. So it is interesting to think about what thing, you just said, Mike, depends on the kids. In this instance, I've won him over with pretty much everything, not yet Buffy.
I mean, to be fair,
it was the other way for me. My kids were all in on Buffy, but not on Star Wars till they were older.
If the kids in this house aren't into Buffy, Star Wars, or Harry Potter, then give them up for adoption.
I guess you have to give them back.
Reasonable, don't just accept them for who they are.
Stalk.
Yeah, don't take them for who they are and have them independent thought. We're going to be a mini me. How
Return to sender.
Right. Yeah, I would love to show this to kids and stuff like that. It's a real good show. Love it, and I was so excited to be able to watch it again, and I'm so glad that Megan liked it. I think there was
I'm so glad that I didn't get any spoilers. I'm kind of amazed that I had no spoilers, considering like when the show came out, because like I've been like. Since I've met Mike, I've watched a lot of things that I had never seen before.
Force Awakens.
Yeah, but what was I going to say? Sorry. Oh, like with the MCU, I hadn't seen when I started watching the MCU. Endgame had already happened.
Spider-Man,
Spider-Man: Homecoming had already come out.
Homecoming. Far From Home,
Far From Home is what made me want to watch them, because I saw that the trailer for it at the cinema. I was like, that looks good. And Mike was like, well, you can't watch that unless you've seen all of these. And I was like, all right. And then we went and saw Far From Home, and I still hadn't seen Endgame yet because there were spoilers at the start of Endgame. And I was like, oh.
Start for Endgame. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Anyway. But I've been really lucky with spoilers. So that's the rambly thing that I'm saying there.
It's good fun. It's good. Well, thank you both because of not only coming on this and doing another wrap-up show, but also for Season's Greetings, because that really made me go, oh yeah, I love Buffy. I get on watching that. So thank you for Season's Greetings, because I actually got Megan to watch. Yes, it was just such
hard work for us. We really hated it.
Thank you for the loss that you had.
And for naming our dog.
Yeah. Yeah, it would have been Spike or Willow, boy or girl. Well, I jokingly said I'd love to call a dog Spike.
No, I'm not calling my dog Spike.
But why don't you guys plug your stuff, your pod stuff? This will be out in early 24. And I'll put, first week or two of January, I think. And also I'll put links to stuff we've been doing recently, including the Romeo and Juliet episode that Megan missed because she was ill. She's very upset about this.
Yeah. Got questions now, Megan, having listened to Patreon. Your reaction to Mike's, you had a migraine, left me with questions.
I don't remember, but I definitely did have a migraine. I had parents' evening that day.
You had parents?
You did. You did. Yeah. I remember Mike saying that. Yeah. You listened back to that Patreon episode. You listened to your reaction when Mike said, "Oh, you had a Megan. You had a Megan that night. You had a migraine that." You were like, "Oh, did I?"
Oh.
I think that was because we watched Crank. We watched Nomeo and Juliet and Crank on the Sunday, and then the pod I think was meant to be on the Monday.
What the fuck is Crank?
Oh, this is what she forgets every.
Okay. Jason Statham.
The film you hated.
Sex in Public.
Oh, the janky one.
Yeah.
No, I didn't like that.
Yeah, yeah, that was what it was from the Patreon thing. But yeah, she did have a migraine. But I want to be in a plug and say goodbye. Details in the show notes, friends. Tony, tell people about what you've got up to and things.
Yeah, well, I've got the book. You just go to my website, arfarina.com, and you can buy stuff that I write there. And the new book, the Moon Knight book, is out. So that show should be coming out soon. Scott is coming on to talk about it. So that should be coming out soon. Jack and I will be seasons greetings, finishing up Deadwood. There it is. Welcome to Mansfield. What a book. Wow, I hear that one's pretty good.
5 stars.
5 stars, I heard.
Yeah.
I got a couple of 5-star reviews. That was lovely. So yeah, we're going to continue our season's greetings, and Jack and I are doing Back to the Bibliography, where we're studying deeply the works of Phillips and Brubaker, which is spectacular, good fun, talking about noir and whatever else comics. Heath and I are maybe going to start we're going to finally finish, goddamn, we're going to finish Sin City and then other things. So the Indie Comic Spotlight, ADHD cast on the Comics in Motion Network, whatever I feel like putting out now, whatever. Season's greetings with my good friend and international co-host, Jack.
Mm-hmm.
And Jack, back to the film and what else you got going on?
Well, as you can tell, Tony just totally indulges. And what's the right word? Like he
enables.
He enables. Thank you. He indulges and enables my obsessive listing.
Completion.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, I have it. So it's not obsessive compulsive; it's obsessive completionist disorder, I think, is what I have. So yeah, we've got all of that going on. And to mention, I'm doing a complete Stath filmography watch for my own show, Back to Filmography. Yeah, so in January, yeah, we're hitting the end of the safe Stath period. So we're moving into the Fast and Furiouses and the Megs, and when he starts hitting the stratospheric era. So I'm looking forward to moving into that next stage of his career in early 2024.
Incredible. Well, you can find Megan at Grits Gets Fit on Instagram.
Oh, you're doing my plugs for me. That's nice.
Do you want to do them? Okay, I thought you did normally. And you can find out on Patreon, patreon.com/genuine Chit-Chat, and you can get Megan every single week. And we're doing lots of Christmas, or we have done by the time this comes out, lots of Christmas episodes as well. Lots of bonus stuff. Lots of fun from the two of us if you want to support us.
And hopefully you guys are going to live record you guys watching something Megan hates. And we'll be treated to a 2-hour Megan, oh my God, this is shit. What the fuck is going on? Into
I get
a microphone
really grumpy.
for 2 hours.
She does it really mad at me. Very mad.
I don't think I'm ready for the internet to hear the true me.
It's okay. I love it. But friends, thank you for tuning in to Buffy Revisited, season's greeting kind of wrap-uppy, double wrap-up thing, because you guys have already done a wrap-up show. And thank you both for getting us to rewatch it, because it just made me love Buffy. It reminded me why I love Buffy so much, and Willow and everything like that. And yeah, you guys are just awesome. And I appreciate you both. And thank you, Megan, for watching Buffy and joining the show.
It's all right.
Thanks for letting me hang out with some of my favorite people.
Yeah, back at you.